Warning, F-bombs are armed and may be dropped because this is the mandatory carry channel as opposed to a human channel. Well, I'll start off by apologizing to everybody who tried to make the live stream today. After some troubleshooting and testing, I found out that it actually wasn't YouTube or Streamlab. It appears to have been my own fault. All I know is I shut the computer down, I restarted it, everything worked fine. So, there you are. Okay, but you know what? This is going to be a premiere, and since it's a premiere and not a live stream, I can go all the shit posty. That is not cool guy taped. That's actually a pair of tape side by side. Normally they wouldn't be mounted, but since it's not a live stream, there you go. Okay, the subjects for today were supposed to be tolerance and respect. Now, if you're watching this video because you follow the channel, probably it doesn't apply to you. You might, however, know somebody else who has this problem. I'm just saying. All right. So the flashpoint for this was that somebody posted on a Discord something about hating furries. Personally, I have no interest in talking to that community. I know a couple of people who are furries, and I can talk to them out of costume, but I can't talk to them any other time. And they get really butthurt about this because they know my own fetish background, and they think it's rather hypocritical of me to not like theirs. And they're not wrong, but different strokes for different folks. Don't bother me with yours, and I'm not going to bother you with mine. You don't, however, need to go out of your way to give them shit. All right. The individuals I know in the furry community, when I know they've gone off to an event, right, I don't call them, I don't text them, I don't bother them. When I know they should be back and they're not responding to something, I might go out of my way to bother them. That's it. Hey, dude, are you broken down on the side of the road or something? I don't know. Did you get murdered? Did you get carjacked? No way to know. Other than that, I leave them the fuck alone. And as long as they're adults, I don't care. If it is not actually affecting you, you need to leave it alone, right? It's not bothering you. Don't let it bother you. Now, there are some things that you can't just ignore, and I am talking about a certain individual who keeps saying, it's your property, you can do with it what you want. I'm specifically talking about this individual, not going to name his name, but he was talking about flag burning. Way back in 2003 or 4, I was saying flag burning is an act of terrorism or rebellion or whatever it was I was saying back then. And it was. And it was about sending a message: I am opposed to the United States in all forms and all ways. You can like this comment or not. I don't give a shit. But the fact of the matter is, yeah, it was part of a pattern that got worse as time went on. Now we're seeing people occupying parts of cities. There's a new camp or something way the hell out in Wyoming. I think it's Wyoming. Those guys are fine. You go there, you do what you want, and you can howl and ree and all that other shit. Don't be burning no flags. Don't be declaring your hate for the United States. At least don't be putting it on the internet. But as a general rule, you go out there, you do what you want. Okay, that's fine. That's great. You go out there and do what you want. This might actually end up different from that other site up in Idaho. What is the name of that place? I don't remember the name of the place off the top of my head, but I do remember referring to it as a future bombing test range. Those people, what they're doing behind those closed doors is leaking out into the rest of the world. Right? We all know that it's a what is it? A white supremacist commune, has some sort of vaguely religious name, and I can't remember it off the top of my head, but that's okay. Doesn't matter. The simple fact that it's going on and everybody knows what's going on behind closed doors, that's a little different. This other place, as long as it stays behind those closed doors, nobody's going to ask. Don't let your shit get outside. And I can ignore you. For those of you that don't know, I lived in Sacramento for 15 years, I think it was. Everybody, I mean literally everybody, knew that there was a gay bar down on J Street. It was down around 10th, 15th, somewhere in that range. I knew it was there, and I left it alone. All right? I had no reason to go down there and start a problem. If you can't respect somebody's differences, that's actually your problem. If you don't want to, well, that's also actually your problem. You're if you're the one who's different and you're doing it behind those closed doors, and somebody's bothering you, come talk to me. I'll back you up. All right. Show a little basic respect for others. If you don't like something, keep it to yourself. I'm also talking about the flag burning thing. You don't like the United States, that's fine. You don't need to advertise it. All right. So that was only 7 minutes. Ghost gun rule change. This is going to be fun. All right. So, generally speaking, everybody knows what the term ghost gun means, but because there is varying nuances, a ghost gun is what the ATF calls a home built firearm. They've been really clear in the past home builds are fine. Doesn't matter if you bought a kit, doesn't matter if you took a piece of aluminum from your local hardware supply and did it from scratch, 0%. Ghost guns are fine. I'm going to double down on this a little bit. Back in 2003, when I was still not I'm still not a gun control opponent specifically, Brett calls me up, says, let's talk about this. He comes on over, we have a couple of beers. I had been saying that it's illegal, you can't do this, and blah, 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 blah. Okay. So Brett was kind of frustrated with me, I guess. He calls up the ATF, he puts it on speaker, and I'm listening in. And this ATF agent, I remember his name, I'm not going to say it now, he flat out said, if you don't do something stupid with it, how are we ever going to know? I don't remember if he said stupid or you don't do anything or whatever it was, the word he used. But I do remember very specifically he said, how are we ever going to know? The thing about a home build is you can't legally transfer it unless it was specifically built for the transfer purpose. For example, you You make an AR-15 because you're going to give it to your kids. That's legal. It's kind of, sort of, a little bit borderline, but it is generally legal. Now, I know New York, first of all, or excuse me, New Jersey, it is specifically illegal. New York, I think it's specifically illegal. In California, you have to register it, which is actually illegal. And the state of California should know that that's an illegal requirement. You can't legally serialize a gun that was not manufactured. And they tried this really genius sounding thing about having it serialized via your local sheriff's department. As if the sheriff's department manufactured it. Sheriff's departments do not manufacture weapons. They confiscate them, they destroy them, and sometimes they return them. But that was the workaround that they thought was genius, and it actually isn't. Now, thanks to Creepy Joe, the ATF had to, and I want to emphasize this, had to come out with some new definition that would encompass home builds as registered firearms. Right. I am infamous for the fact that I won't turn on cops unless they actually fucked up. I'm saying this for emphasis. The ATF was ordered to do this. That's it. This was not a decision they made. What was it? 2 years ago with bump stock, same thing. They were ordered to do this. They did the best they could with the orders they were. Excuse me. 3 years ago, they were ordered to to create a bump stock ban. They did the best they could with what they had, and it failed. It failed for a reason. It was a bad idea. Yes, Donnie, that was a bad fucking idea. Yes, you are not a god and you're not omniscient. For what it's worth, I don't think the ATF really fought the bump stock ban nearly as hard as they should have or could have or whatever you want to call it. Do not blame the ATF for Joe Biden's decision. And keep in mind, as you blame the ATF for Joe Biden's decision, ATF did not write the 1991 assault weapons bill. That is not an assault weapon, people. That's a semi-auto only. I think it could be converted to automatic. Legally, no. Mechanically, yeah. Automatic only is the problem there. That's fine, because I won't do it. I don't think the barrel can handle an automatic mode. As you blame the ATF, remember that the same Joe Biden who ordered them to write this ghost gun ban is the same Joe Biden who wrote the assault weapons ban back in 91, or at least now claims credit for it. I'm just saying. Don't blame them for the orders they were given. What do we do now, though? Well, it turns out every time that the feds have this new rule coming out, they have to open comment for 90 days. All you have to do is have your letter postmarked by the day, right? You could literally stroll into the post office the day it closes before midnight local time, hand it over, get it postmarked, and off it goes. And they have to read it. Flood them with comments. Now, few details. First of all, every third word is an F bomb or a, whatever. They're going to look at that and they're going to throw it. And by the way, the same rules that they once had set up to go through this process, they went through this process before. They made sure that it was okay if every third word was an F bomb, they could throw it. Yeah, they can actually do that. Don't use the F-bombs. Don't use any bad language, right? Even I'm fucking able to control my F-bombs when I feel like it. That last one wasn't an accident, didn't slip out. I put it in there deliberately. I can fucking control my F-bombs when I feel like it. Just saying. Be polite. Be professional. Be respectful towards the ATF agent who has to read this. Treat them as if you were talking to a friend. For some of you, treat them as if you were talking to somebody who could actually get you in trouble, right? And you're trying to stay out of trouble. Few points to remind them. First of all, if you do it and don't tell them, how are they ever going to know? Few people who kind of ignored that detail. One of them is the guy that appears in Gun Control Has Failed compilation, right? He made a point of it to demonstrate this gun that he home built, and under federal law as it existed right then and as it exists now, it's still a machine gun, and he's going off to prison, and that's unfortunate for him. There's no video of him actually shooting the gun. All he did was say, yeah, I took it out. That was a bad idea, but bro, nobody would have ever known if you hadn't have told the entire world. Make a point of it to remind them that if you never tell anybody, how are they ever going to know? Make a point of it that this interferes with your right to due process, your right against unreasonable search and seizure, and, ironically enough, your Sixth Amendment right your Sixth Amendment rights, all right? Just look it up. I know my letter references Sixth Amendment. Go with it. First of all, it interferes with, and ex post facto, which is not even an amendment. That's in the original Constitution. Right, a little bit of ex post facto. King X is on the throne, and he happens to like blue coffee cups. So he says nothing about blue coffee cups, doesn't touch them, doesn't even talk about them his entire reign. And blue coffee cups just happens to be a sign that you are a gun control supporter, or a gun control opponent, rather, right? So anytime you see somebody drinking from a blue cup, unless you know it's somebody else's cup, oh, that guy is gun rights supporter, like you, bro, right? Next king up, he hates guns. So he bans all blue cups throughout the kingdom. Okay? We collect up our blue cups and we hide them somewhere. Oh no! Because he's got a list of everybody who was known to own a blue cup. And now, because you pissed off the king, you're going to be burned at the stake. This was something that would happen, called ex post facto, after the fact. Make it illegal after the fact that it occurred, and then go back and punish everybody. Now, blue cups is not the thing that they would ex post facto hang you or burn you at the stake or whatever for. This was for something that they could never have foreseen 100 years ago, 50 years ago, 1,000 years ago, whatever. Um, currently the situation that we really are facing. You have a home built Smith & Wesson 4006. I'm sure that's a thing. I've just never seen one. No problem. Right now, it's legal. You have it, right? 6, 8 months when they're banned, cops are knocking at your door. They're going to arrest you if you don't hand it over. And I mean that fast. Hell, I had that situation starting to develop on me about a year or so ago, year and a half ago. Year and a half ago, I had bought a parts kit, an incomplete parts kit. It was suddenly ruled to be a machine gun. Well, it's not a machine gun, but fine, whatever. And unfortunately for me, I had lost control of that parts kit. I had a girlfriend, she stole it. It is what it is. I know if I really tried, I could tell you exactly where to find it. Probably down to within 10 feet. She stole it, she gave it to her old man. He didn't like me very much. And that's okay. I don't really think I like him too much either. But whatever. Um, Now I could be charged with a felony for possession of an unlicensed machine gun. Now I'm kind of fortunate and kind of not that she stole it, right? And that I can prove she stole it. That part I'm fortunate. The part I'm not fortunate for is ATF will always have my name back in their mind. Hey, we're going to ban 80% receivers, and if he has his 80% uh, stolen, lightning didn't strike twice. What's really going on here? And they will tear me apart looking for it. If they can't find it, they'll just arrest me and throw me in prison. That's the reality of my world. The fact that that's ridiculous and entirely ex post facto, harp on that. Again, be professional. All right, no F bombs. They can throw those away. I've heard varying opinions. Can you send in 3 or 4 letters all saying the same thing? Or generally the same thing? No, I wouldn't recommend it. At bare minimum, write 3 or 4 letters under 3 or 4 different names. Right? They do check to see if somebody's trying to stuff the ballot. What they're going to do is, as this process goes along, is they're going to just read it. They're going to skim it. They're not going to dig into the details. They're going to skim it. They're going to see that this is an opposed letter, put it in one pile. Then they're going to skim the next one, and it says support. They're going to put support into another pile. Whichever pile is bigger, that's the way their attorneys are going to kind of turn their minds. So the attorneys then turn around and take the bigger of the 2 piles and actually read it. And that's when they're going to see things like this violates the 6th Amendment, which, by the way, is a ban on taking without compensation. And it violates the 4th and the 3rd and the 2nd and every other amendment. I'm sure some of you out there, maybe with the exception of no, it would violate the 8th too. I'm sure you could find. Well, I know there's somebody out there who can find a way to violate all of them except maybe 1 or 2 that I just can't think of off the top of my head. And I'm just focusing on the Bill of Rights here, not all of the amendments. I know people have a real hard time saying Dataslav. Like literally everybody. I don't. I think I'm the only person on earth who can say it correctly. It's Dataslav. How hard is it? Really hard. And I know that because when I first came up with the name, I was struggling to read it too. And finally, I had to take Volstead and sound it out backwards to myself. That's a little secret about the name. It's not Dataslav. My name is not J. Dataslav. All right. Dataslav is Volstead, as in Volstead Act, backwards. Volstead Act was the enabling act for prohibition. When prohibition passed, they couldn't actually say you can't have alcohol because you could physically get it. All they could do was regulate it. And how did they regulate it? They regulated it with taxes. And if you didn't pay the taxes and you didn't have the alcohol license, you go to prison. That's how they regulated it. Alcohol is actually, in a lot of ways, far more complicated because this is chemistry at work. And that chemistry has been known to go very badly, very, very quickly. There were still, most of the stills during Prohibition that they found, it was found because the damn still exploded or caught fire or something. Now we're talking about pieces of metal and plastic. Yes, the plastic can catch fire, okay, fine. But the metal is not likely to catch fire. Magnesium is bad for that. I've never heard of magnesium being used in a gun. Um, if I'm wrong, please feel free to correct me. This is actually going to work out worse than Volstead because all you need to do is put a pipe on. You don't even really need to put a pipe on anything. I'm sure if you look a little bit harder than I'm going to be bothered with, you can find what is it? Pipe shotguns. All it is one pipe in another with a bolt on an end cap. That's a shotgun, and it works, right? I think it's a whole lot more shitpost than it is actual pragmatism. But take one of those to gun buyback, they have to accept it because it is actually a firearm. There you go. It's that simple. You can ban ammo all you want. Everything else, it doesn't matter. Harp on the realities of enforcing this, and they will have to turn to Creepy Joe after about 6 months and say, Mr. President, this is just not going to fly. We can't make this work. Now, what is Joe going to do about it? Well, you know what he's going to do about it. He's going to turn to Congress and say, we've got to make this happen. Okay. But make him turn to Congress and not to a regulatory agency. A little bit more about regulatory agencies. When they are told to do X, Y, or Z, they have to do it, right? That is literally your taxpayer dollars at work. And for them to refuse to do what they were ordered to do means they're stealing your money. Compare the ATF, for example, to the FAA. The FAA, their job is to make air travel safe. Now, how great a job they're doing at that sometimes is a little iffy. But that's literally their job. And if they don't even try to do the one thing that they were ordered to do, make air travel safe, they're stealing your money. I apply this rule to all government agencies, not necessarily all government employees, because we all know there's corrupt politicians, there's corrupt government employees, there's corrupt doctors, there's corrupt attorneys, there are corrupt manufacturers, right? Enron was just a totally corrupt corporation from the ground up. That's the way it is, right? Criminals come in every walk of life, every occupation. Don't take out on the agency the decision of the elected official. Treat the ATF agent like you would a your adult child who has come to you asking for advice. And even that doesn't work because I know there's some people out there that the F bombs flow like water. You think I'm bad? You know, I've met that guy. He doesn't know how to say two sentences without 8 F bombs. Treat them with the respect you would your adult child who's come to you for advice, financial advice, or whatever. Okay. Harp on practical realities. Harp on the Sixth Amendment ban on taking, the Fourth Amendment ban on unreasonable search and seizure, Fifth Amendment ban on self-incrimination, and what was the other one? There's actually another one that I thought of. It was not the Eighth Amendment. It's slipped my mind now. It is what it is. Write the letter, send it in, and try to write legibly. If you can't write legibly like this asshole here, type it. Okay? Voice to text sometimes is your friend. Do what you got to do. Don't write the same letter 100 times. Oh, for God's sake, please. Don't photocopy the letter 100 times. They will see it. They will notice it. Right? Worst case scenario. You write 4 generally similar letters under 4 different names and mail those in. It's harder to tell. They will catch eventually what you've done, but maybe by then the oppose pile will be so big that it's too late and they've already thrown the support pile out. Okay. Right now, it is also the duty of every patriot and every Second Amendment supporter, and that's not the same group of people necessarily, to start building ghost guns. And it is as simple as that. Um, they're not cheap. They're not always terribly easy to obtain, and they're not as good as a factory manufactured one as a general rule. You got a 3D printer, use it. You got a CNC machine, use it. I really wish I could find a 3D printer expert that could explain the process to me because I know where there is one, right? It's sitting in a barn collecting dust because none of us know how it works. We turned it on once. What? This is about a month and a half, 2 months after Brent passed away. Me and Fix went out to the barn. We tried to turn it on and it caught fire. Fortunately, we were able to put the fire out by unplugging it. One asshole stuck his hand in there and ripped the thing out. was not the smartest thing I've ever done in my life, right? I at least was smart enough to grab the part of the gun that wasn't burning. We really, really have no clue what we're doing. It'd be nice to find somebody who could tell us before you say a certain YouTuber. I reached out to him and I'm never going to speak to him again. Period. And he was actually recommended. That's pretty sad. Learn how to use them, and use them as much as you can. What happens when this passes and ATF comes knocking on your door? Have one that you can hand over. Just have it handed over. As for the rest, I sold those to pay for this one. Will they arrest you for that? They probably will. You'll have to deal with it. But fight that in the courts until the last man in the last round. And don't ever tell them what really happened to them. It's as simple as that. If you have a 3D printer or a CNC machine, or just a mill, and you can do it kind of by hand like Farmcraft did, so much the better, because now there's no record of what you did. You can't prove anything. CNC machine or a 3D printer has a memory. Clear the memory as soon as you can. Brent has a memory, right? But it's a memory of like 10 seconds ago. He replaced the memory chips for that reason. It can only remember what it was supposed to do 10 seconds ago, and it can only know what it's supposed to do in about 2 seconds from now. That's it. That's all it can remember. Very smart. That's the real reason I want to use his machine. He understood all this shit. He did that somehow, and it would be nice. Right. Right now, I'm at 40 minutes. So, French and American Civil War prospects, in case you weren't paying attention. Last week, something like 2,000 retired French military officers, back on the plate here, signed an open letter to the French president, Macron, right now, right? Warning that civil war was imminent. Imminent. This is very, very dangerous territory, even by my fucked up standards. And it got worse. They actually outlined why it was imminent. This is France. This is 2,000 French military officers. I do know that something like the top 5 or something like that of these officers actually were officers, flag officers. They're all described as generals. Okay, maybe they really are all generals. I'm gonna bet there was at least one admiral in that list. 2,000 retired French military officers. I think maybe about half that list was retired enlisted. Right? Because fucking media can't get shit, anything right. But they were retired military personnel. This part's beyond dispute. They outlined the circumstances that this could happen under, and that makes it very dangerous because they're sitting there looking at what's really going on and saying, wait a second, we're seeing some very dangerous precedents. We're seeing some very dangerous patterns. We're seeing some very dangerous, whatever the fuck the word that they are going to pick was, happening. And that means it's beyond imminent. It's pretty well written in stone. Desperate action at this point would be needed to prevent it. And calling in the army ain't going to do it. It's as simple as that. You can call the army all you want. You can have them massacre cities left and right all you want. It's not going to change the fact that the rebellion has begun. It's not going to change the fact sooner or later that rebellion's going to win. It's either going to win on a battlefield, and Macron is um, how do I put this without blowing up YouTube? He's going to know how not even Ceausescu. Um, he's going to hang out for a while. Yeah, that's what's going to happen. Not could happen. That is what's going to happen. And it's going to take about 2 years. It gets worse. Guns are generally banned in France. Now, there's certain conditions you can get them under. But yeah, as a general rule, they're banned. And yet, it's just about this time last year when a major firefight broke out right in downtown Paris. Now, was it a terrorist attack or a drug deal? I don't know. But there was a major firefight. There's video of shooters. Tell me that that didn't happen. Please, by all means, tell me that didn't happen. Where'd they get the guns? As P.T. Ludi, Anne Allen, and oh, who else? Yep, Barncraft. The Maquis during World War II. Yeah, them. As so many others in the past have conclusively and repeatedly proven, if you know how to do it, you can do it yourself. They're going to do it themselves. These neo stens, they might be just the simplest thing on earth. A straight blowback operated, smooth bore, no safety, automatic only, and a submachine gun on top of all of that, and short barrel and short stock submachine gun on top of all of that, and it will happen. Not it could, it will. And at that point, the really hard part is getting ammo. They can make the ammo themselves, and that happened at the Avalon Institutes. Please don't tell me that didn't happen. More likely, they'll try to import it, and you can import a box or crate of 1,009 millimeter. Well, I could fit in that box. Actually, no, I couldn't. Oh, I could come very, very close, though. It's that easy. You could hump it over the border. Be a lot easier if you could drive it over the border, but you can walk it across the border, and there is basically no border to France and most of the rest of Europe. Ever since the fall of the Berlin Wall, it's just gotten worse and worse. Not that the Berlin Wall was all that great either. Flag on the play. The people who crossed in Berlin, they were doing it to prove they could. If you really wanted to get from communist East Germany to democratic West Germany, you just go north or really, really far south. Don't even bother with Berlin. That's not worth the trouble. You're going to see guards, you're going to see barbed wire, you're going to see landmines through the Berlin Wall area. You're going to see machine guns, you're going to see all that crap. If you really wanted to get across, you don't go there. You go there to make the point that I got across. The real way to get across was to go north. It's about 3/4 between Fulda Gap's turn point and the North Sea. right about there, the border was just 3 strands of barbed wire. It looked like cattle fencing. Remember, I'm about yay tall, right? I know I'm in junior high school by the time I saw this photo. And it was just 3 strands of barbed wire. I thought it was cattle fencing. I thought it was a pasture, which actually probably was. That's it. You just hop across that and you're in West Germany. The trick to that was you had to get to the fence before anybody saw you. Well, the trick to that was simply turn off the freeway like you have engine trouble or whatever, floor it, and it'll take them at least 20 minutes to even know you're up to something, if they know you're up to something by that point. And it'll take them another half hour at least to respond. You got about a 90% chance of making that border before the Border Patrol could get to you. All right, so I've gone a little off topic. The big part about this, France is pretty much written in stone that there's going to be an uprising. Their problem is numbers. How big is the uprising going to be? And I can tell you, I have no way of knowing personally. I can also tell you that whether this uprising is successful or not will be determined by the percentage of the population that supports it and the percentage of that that's armed. That first number could be as little as 25%, and the French government is in really, really serious trouble. If only 1 in 4 of the French actually supports the rebellion, revolution, uprising, whatever you want to call it, that's really bad because it means that they're going to have to kill basically 3 out of 4 to have any chance of killing the one who supported it. If even half of the people who supported it actually were armed and fighting the battle, this revolution is basically done. It's that simple. Less than 10% of the French actually were members of the Maquis, and only 1 in 3% supported the Maquis. That's the truth. 1 in 3 supported the Germans. Why did that one succeed and the other one failed? Partially it's because of D-Day. D-Day forced the German army to focus on the Anglo-American allies. They couldn't pay as much attention to the Maquis and took so much pressure off of them. There's a problem with that. 1 in 3 supported the Germans, 1 in 3 opposed them. The other 1 in 3 were either neutral, totally just leave me alone and let me plant my potatoes. That would have been about 30% of them. The other 2 out of 3 had other agendas. They didn't support French government before, but they didn't really oppose it. They wanted something else. They really didn't like the Germans. They really, really didn't like the Germans, but the Germans were useful idiots for them. So for right now, let the Germans go. And if you sell them bread, well, I'm making money. They'll go away someday, and then the people that I really want to have here can just sort of slide into that power vacuum. Most of them were not full-on communists. Very, very small percentage of them supported Stalin, but most of them were actually socialists and wanted a socialist utopian without noticing they were actually sitting in a socialist utopia, whatever. Well, just go with that. That's fine. I would say that France is in really, really big trouble right now. And if I were President Macron, I think it's President Macron, I would have my retirement plan very, very well written. Correction, I would have my evacuation route secured right down to not even flying a helicopter out, but climbing into something that looks like a taxi with a face mask on. A good mask, to be sure. American Civil War prospects are a little bit more más o menos. We're getting more into that France 1940s territory than France 2020s territory. I can look y'all in the eye and say, I'm not quite sure what direction this French Revolution is going to go, but it's pretty ugly. Here in the US, we got a bigger problem. We got something more like a Syria or France 1940s situation going on where really there's about 8 different factions. Now, there's three main factions. There's the Americanist faction, which, I, you, I am an American exceptionalist, and I'm also not a fascist, so go fuck yourself. There's the Fuck America faction, Antifa, BLM, SPLC, etc. And then there's the old guard, which right now is led by Joe Biden. They want to keep the United States the way they want it, which is more or less the direction it's headed now. Right? Those are the 3 main factions. Within them, like I said, the Fuck America, the Iran faction, really, um, is broken up mainly into 2 different groups. Antifa, that is full on uh, Tehran supporters. They really do want Tehran in charge. Now they may not realize this, whatever, boomer. Um, but yeah, they're at the end of the day, their big money, their deep pockets, is coming out of Tehran, mostly by oil they stole from Iraq between 2003 and roughly 2013, when ISIS cut the flow off, started selling it themselves. Oh, damn, did Kerry just say that? Yeah, I just said that. Um, that's the real reason Iran turned on ISIS. ISIS cut the flow of oil off and started making money for themselves. Don't bite your bankers. Just don't do it. It's a bad idea. They owed Iran a lot of money, and Iran was going to get that money back one way or the other. And if they all died in the process, so what? Now Iran can't get any of the money back, but that's okay. They sent their message, and nobody who owes them money is ever going to try that again. Flag on the play. This is not without precedent. Long, long before it was Iran, that was the country of Persia. You've heard of the last 300 or the 300 or Thermopylae or something? That was not about outright Persia invading Greece. That was about certain Greek city states, and one of them actually, I think, was Sparta, owed them money. All right? Xerxes was going to get his money back one way or another. So he was going to get it back by force if he had to. Um, the 300 and their allies, people forget about that part, made a stand at Thermopylae, and although not successful, they were massacred to the last. They did manage to hold the line long enough to tell everybody else, hey, there's actually an invasion going on. You need to get up off your ass and get down here. And they did. And the invasion was repelled. To put this in a more modern context, using D-Day as a model, imagine if the Anglo-Americans, had landed at Normandy and the Germans on those beaches started firing into the Americans long enough to send a message straight to Hitler saying, no, this is an actual invasion. We need the panzers here yesterday. Well, Rommel could have done that. Fortunately, Rommel was in Berlin at the time because everybody said, there's not going to be an invasion. Don't worry about it. If he had been there, he would have turned the panzers loose, and D-Day might have been a complete and utter fiasco. So much so that the Germans would have invaded Britain and would have been a successful invasion. That's the reality. It gets worse. But never mind that for now. Instead, at Normandy, the tripwire was set off, but the bomb didn't go off. At Thermopylae, the tripwire was set off, and the bomb did go off, and everybody came. Now, the whistle blew, and everybody went. Where was I going with this? Iran is going to want their money back. They invest a whole lot more than you can imagine, into ISIS. ISIS refused to pay back. Now they're gone. They invested a whole lot, maybe not as much, into Antifa. Antifa is not going to make the same mistake ISIS did. I cannot imagine that Antifa does not know where their money really comes from. And if nothing else, they know whose name was on that check that they got, and they're going to turn around and pay it back. And Soros is going to tell them what to do. And they're going to do it. BLM is a little bit different. BLM is not, as far as I can tell, is not taking Soros's money. They're taking money from their own supporters. Now, the grift is real. You don't run an advocacy and then buy a $1.5 million house and say, but I'm a poor advocate and totally innocent. No, honey. Um, they're not, as far as I can tell, taking George Soros's money. Are they taking money from other sources? Yeah, it could be. And some of those could be Iranian backed. But if they can't tell where that money came from, and they have the money now, it'll be really, really hard for Iran to collect on that debt. I think BLM is safe from that. I believe that that's the real reason why we're starting to see a rift forming between Antifa and BLM. Soros is telling Antifa, BLM's not towing the line. We've got kind of a problem here. I want you to not associate with them quite so closely as you have been. And Antifa's, I will do what you ordered, and it is what it is. So there's a rift forming within that. But if the shooting civil war starts in the U.S., the two of them are definitely going to be on the same side, at least until the war's over. Um, the American Exceptionalists, which really was headed by Trump and really still pretty much is. It's like a well over 50% influencing factor. Donald Trump didn't really lead the movement. He was the spokesman. He knew what those of us who supported American exceptionalism believed. He seems to believe it himself. And he's going to spout it until the day he dies or is cast into a dark hole somewhere forever and ever, right? He wasn't really the leader of this movement any more than I am, or 90% of the people who are actually going to watch this video are. He just spoke for us. And he spoke very well, a lot better than I do. Mistakes and missteps notwithstanding, right? Other American exceptionalists, Proud Boys, Patriot Prayer, um, Three Percenters, the other ones, Oath Keepers, none of whom will talk to me. That sucks, but that's okay. They're not even close to like 10% of the American exceptionalists. They're just the ones most likely to have that, right? They're the ones most likely to know how to use that. The biggest part of this American exceptionalist group um, really is walk away. And to be perfectly blunt, they're the most dangerous part. Funny thing is, more than half of them have never touched a gun in their life and wouldn't know how to use one. Yeah, that's the truth. Well, more than half of Walkaway has, has never had any experience with firearms. They've never owned one, or if they did, it's Grampy's shotgun or a little 38 revolver that they put in their locker and forgot about 20 years ago. The real danger with Walkaway is not that they're going to take up arms, but that they're not going to do anything to help the people on the other side, right? Um, Proud Boy and a Walkaway, they may not see eye to eye about a lot of things. A Proud Boy comes to a Walkaway and says, "I need help. I'm hurt, or I haven't eaten in 3 days, or I need a place to stay for a couple days because I got doxxed and they firebombed my house." Walkaway would be pretty inclined to say, "Come on in, let's talk. What's really going on? Why I might have gotten into some trouble. Okay, shut up. Don't say anything else. Don't say anything else. I don't want to know." An Antifa walks up to that same door and says, huh, and these are two people that know each other from way the hell back. I need help. The cops are after me, or whatever. No, I'm sorry. I can't help you. That's the real danger of the walkaways. They're going to pick which side they are going to help when they can. That's the truth. That's where civil wars are really won and lost. It's not the three percenters. They just create enough trouble. The government has to respond to it somehow. And it's not the 10 percenters like me who are going to step up and when the chaos comes to their communities say, "No, no, 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 no. You get to leave now. Oh, you don't want to leave. Bang, bang, bang." Right? And that's the decision I have made. I'm not going to Los Angeles. I'm not going to San Francisco. Hell, I don't even want to go to Reno. I will if the sheriff orders me to, but beyond that, no. It's that 90% who get to pick which side that they want to support, and they decide which side they're going to support. And this history is rife with this. Um, Mark Antony and Cleopatra didn't win their civil war because they had the bigger army, or didn't lose their civil war because they had the bigger army, because Mark Antony did have the bigger army, like 3, 4 times the size of Augustus Caesar's army. They lost their civil war because they ran out of places to go. They couldn't get food. They couldn't get equipment. They couldn't get housing. They couldn't get food. Most of all, they could not get food. They had no choice but to surrender. Well, obviously they didn't surrender. Augustus Caesar had that popularity. He had that commoners' support, even really far flung parts of the uh, empire, like Judea, like the far end of Egypt, like parts of Arabia, even parts of Germany and the Rus and the Slav territories. They're looking at these two leaders and saying, who do we not want to support? But which one has our best interest more in mind? They're never going to have my best interests in mind, but at least one of them is going to do more for me than the other. And they're looking at, and they're saying that's Caesar Augustus. Julius Caesar maybe did or didn't have our interests in heart, but Mark Antony and Cleopatra do not have my interests in heart. They have their own interests at heart, and I'm not going to support them. I'm not going to give them chickens. I'm not going to give them eggs. I'm not going to give them bread. I'm not going to sell it to them either. No clearer example of this can be given than King Herod of Judea. Remember a moment ago when I said that he had supporters in Judea, Egypt, and uh, Arabia? Herod was the king of Judah at the time, which is Israel now. The Jews did not like the Romans at all. Herod's sitting there looking at it saying, I got to pick a side and I'm going to support. Well, I think Antony and Cleopatra have my better interests in mind. I'm going to support them. And he did. So he had to beat down his own people who maybe didn't support this plan, who didn't like Cleopatra and Mark Antony, right? Because Egypt and Israel had had problems in the past, and now here he is selling out to the new whore of Babylon. Oh, well, that's not a good idea. No, no, off with your head instead, right? Now the war's over. Augustus has won. He's rounding up everybody who supported uh, Antony and Cleopatra and saying, account for yourself. Herod did the smartest thing on earth. He said, I gave them housing, I gave them food, I gave them recruits, I gave them weapons, I gave them money, I gave them everything that they asked for, and that's why you should spare my life. When Augustus was confused by this statement and asked him why, what are you talking about? Spare your life? You helped my enemies. He said, yeah, but I could do the same thing for you. And that was what Augustus Caesar wanted to hear. He didn't want to hear about, I begged for my life and this and that and the other thing. He wanted to hear where your loyalties are now. And back onto the original subject. Um, the American Civil War is going to run a whole lot like that. The walkaways are going to be the big deciding factor. The side they support is the side more likely to win. The side that they support and they give food and comfort, shelter to, that's the side that's going to win. And you can't hang them, assuming that the American exceptionalists win the war. We aren't going to hang them. Assuming that the Tyrrhonian supporters win the Civil War, they're maybe going to hang a few of the ringleaders, Straka, Boshenko, a few of the others. But the vast majority, they're just going to be like, whatever. Where's your loyalty now? I guess I have no choice, so I'll do what you say for now. That's all I wanted to hear. The chances that the Bidenites are going to win this Civil War is it's not going to happen. Assad is surviving in Syria only because he's psychopathic, sociopathic, or genocidal. I'm not sure which. I don't care which. He's managed to kill enough of his enemies that they can't. He could kill them all if he wanted to, but he's done so using tactics that Biden does not have the stomach for, and Antifa does, ironically enough. BLM doesn't have the stomach for those kinds of tactics. And what can I say? Between the two, BLM has something resembling a conscience. Antifa doesn't. Sorry, chemical weapons is a serious escalation to any situation. And that's what Assad was willing to do. More than happy to do, to be honest. Right, so right now I'm at 1 hour and 12 minutes. In case I didn't already cover this, actually I'll cover this in a minute, but what went wrong with today's stream? I'll explain that towards the end. Why gun control really doesn't work. Some of you who've seen the older videos, you saw the sub 2000 that I used to have hanging around. It would actually sit in the background like this one is now. Well, I lent it to Papa Carey. Told him to take it up to the lake house. Why? Well, because there's wolves and bears and coyotes, and sometimes they get way too close to the house, right? Typically, they're chasing game, which will go out into the field sometimes and tear up a few stalks, and then here comes the wolves chasing the game, and that happens. But they still get too close to the house, and they're a danger to him. Well, something very funny happened. Houston, Texas. For those of you just tuning into reality because you've been hiding under a rock or something, a gentleman in Houston, Texas, who was wanted on murder, so good job drawing attention to yourself here, pal, was walking a tiger down the street of Houston, Texas. What? Are you really that stupid? Well, apparently he was. It got worse. The tiger got away from him. Nobody knew this animal was there. Nobody had any clue that there was a tiger inside the city limits except at the zoo, which does Houston even have a city zoo? Somebody clue me in. Um, it's loose now and it's out there somewhere. How many more tigers, lions, and tigers and bears, oh my, are there running around in somebody's backyard that nobody knows about? Well, we have no way of knowing. But considering that a mountain lion was seen literally in downtown Alturas earlier this week, I told Papa Carey to bring the Kel back from the lake house and take it back home. Now, I got that one, so I'm okay in my house. I can't really carry that around town. That's not a practical option. I can't go grocery shopping with that thing. I can go grocery shopping with this thing. That's easy. Um, I don't need the Kel so much. I decided Dad does. I talk about Papa Carey a whole lot. I don't talk about Mama Carey so much. If Mama Carey were around, if Mama Carey were still alive, Papa Carey had passed away, I'd be flipping those words around. I'd be telling Mama Carey to bring the cow back from the lake house, only I wouldn't. It'd already be there. It is what it is. Um, Also, if Mama Carey were still around, and lions and tigers and bears, oh my, had been seen in Shasta County quite as prolifically as they're being seen in Modoc County, I think she would have lined the entire fence line with bear repellent by now. That would have gotten expensive. That would have really sucked. But anyway, all right. So here comes the part that I have to make up. And since I'm doing this exactly like I would have done a live stream, except without the chat to tell me what to talk about, I gotta make up something fast. Um, some things to remember. Um, Civil wars and revolutions are really not won on the battlefield. Logistics is what wins the wars, and those logistics right now is basically in the hands of walkaway. That's the truth. BLM and Antifa, they can win battlefield victories, and they do. All last summer, it was nothing but one long victory party for them because they had the support system, they had the infrastructure, the network in place. It was the same network that I use every day. But as this crisis in the US heats up, their supporters are going to suddenly be fewer and fewer very, very quickly. The way that pragmatically works, um, you own a bakery, or you're a cashier at a gas station, or whatever the hell you are, and you're not really on either side, but you're leaning more one direction than the other. You're going to be more inclined when somebody you know is an Antifa member walks in, say, no, no, you have to leave, or I'm not going to serve you, or your money's no good here, please leave. Then they call for the manager, and it's all kinds of drama. And yes, they're going to walk with the out with the bread, but then you're going to turn to the manager afterwards and say, that guy is a known criminal or whatever. They're going to win this one round, then all of a sudden they're going to be excluded person, and they know it. And that's the truth. The bank is going to yank their card. Even the Bidenists are going, Antifa member comes in for because they're on some sort of public assistance. That public assistance employee is on a side, one way or the other. They're going to be making decisions themselves. Oh, you're on public assistance. Well, it's been 3 years and you still haven't tried to get a job. It's time to cut you off. Now, if they're on the other side, they're going to say, yeah, okay, and sign off on it. You're going to see real quick that those bureaucrats are not Bidenists. They are on their own side, and they want to go the way of Herod, not Mark Antony. Simple as that. If nothing else, they're going to start having other problems, like their friends and neighbors shunning them, because we know which side you're on too. And unless all of your city just happens to be Bidenists, or overwhelming vast majority, you're not getting very far. San Francisco, Seattle, um, uh, Portland, really those are the Bidenist strongholds. And they're not even Bidenist strongholds. It's just more of a, we have to pick a side, and it's either the Trumpists or the Bidenists. Okay, we'll take the Bidenists for now. You're also going to see the Bidenists turning on Antifa after not too long, because they're not really supporting Joe. They're supporting their boss, who is supporting his boss, who are supporting their boss. Oh, the cat thing, Houston thing. More on that. That animal's still at large, or at least last I heard, which was this morning. That animal's still at large. That animal is scared and hungry and confused. Right? His um, caretaker, his daddy, is gone. This was his God, somebody who gave him food and shelter and water, and that's gone now. And that poor animal right now is very scared and confused. And it's going to attack somebody. It's already threatened one person. Sooner or later, unless Houston area police or animal control get a handle on this animal, it's going to hurt somebody. And the worst part about that, the animal isn't aiming for the human. It's aiming for your dog or your cat. Outside of city limits, maybe sheep. And then the human who's associated with that sheep or that cow, more likely to be cow, or that dog or that cat or that whatever animal it was, is going to step in, and now the cat is fighting for its survival against somebody who can prey on it. It's gone from predator to prey again. It's going to defend itself. He's going to defend himself. Um, that human in turn is going to escalate that situation. Before it was just run out there and try to scare the animal off. Now the animal perceives that he's under attack. He's going to defend himself. Now the human's going to escalate with very deadly force. And it's because he had to. It's the same reason why the Kel's coming from Lake House. Well, just haul it back and forth. I don't care. It's an inconvenience, especially because the way California law is written, it's got to be locked in the vehicle somehow. Yeah, I'm just, like that makes a whole lot of sense. But anyway, Dad has to lock it up in the vehicle and haul it back and forth. No problem. I'm okay with that. The idea of putting it up there was that it would just be there and it wasn't really practical at home. Well, Houston tells us that, yeah, Dad refuses to get an AR. He refuses to get an AK. He has his SKS, but that's kind of a really limited option. So he needs something a little less limited. Unrelated subject. An SKS can never be an assault anything. I started to cover this a couple weeks ago, the live stream that got shut down. SKSs are fixed box magazine. Now, I know that there's a couple models that are detachable, but those are aftermarket conversions. They're also semi-auto only. It meets neither definition. At least this one meets one of them. It's detachable magazine. This is more an assault weapon than Dad's SKS will ever be, or mine, which currently is in Texas, unfortunately. Otherwise, I would have just had it here. Shit. I was thinking about getting a grid for my exemplar display. Hell, I might just get the grid and put up the actual thing. Either way. I'm actually butthurt about this issue because there's a particular journalist. Remember, the internet picks up everything sooner or later. There is a particular journalist out of Chico, California, who keeps saying assault rifle every chance he gets. He specifically referred to an SKS assault rifle. He said the words 3 times in a report. Ironically enough, it's a story I'm sort of associated with. I was headed down that particular highway when the shooting in question happened, and I had to stop, turn around, and go back the other way. I had to turn around, go down I-5, even though I really didn't want to be on the interstate for that section, because that means I had to go way the hell down to Willows, get off, turn around, come back up. It was just like 2 more miles from where I was stopped to where I needed to be. Now I had to go back about 5 miles, get on the freeway, go down almost 20 miles, cut across 20 miles, and then cut up 15 miles. Why am I being sent around in this big circle? Well, the reason was there was a shooting at a Walmart distribution center. The shooter had an SKS. And now Steve keeps insisting that it was an assault rifle because he's lying through his teeth. We need to talk about that assault rifle, assault weapon definition a lot more, because a couple people who also know better tried to rewrite the definition of assault rifle. Now, you notice I said rifle, not weapon here. It's an important distinction. Even most 2A advocates say assault rifle is one thing and assault weapon is something else. But there was one 2A advocacy group who decided that they were going to rewrite that too. That's actually going to be just screenshots side by side with me speaking over it. I don't do that a whole lot because I don't know how to edit video, but I will be for that. All right. Now, on to something new and interesting. I can't put it in anyways. Oh, wrong button. There it is. All right. You can't see this on screen this time because this is a recording that will be uploaded as a premiere, but excuse me, let me rearrange this a little bit. And before you say it, yeah, I'm a little bit of a boomer. I don't give a shit. So I have been doing a section on Datislav. This is now both the enabling and amendments. I just combined them into one to make it easy on myself and everybody else in the process. Title 5, Penalties, Section 4. Any person who willfully ignores any part of this act may, upon first violation, be fined not more than $100. Okay, so let us say that I, of all people, head out one day, don't take my gun, I just wasn't thinking about it. I forgot it. Didn't feel like carrying it. This is my first violation. I've only been caught once. First violation, $100. Upon second and subsequent violation, $500. Right. This is to compel you to do one of two things. Either obey the law, which is the easiest thing to do, or go out of your way to get one of the exemptions. And there's a lot of exemptions out there. I can't even conceive of a scenario that I haven't covered except for the jogger scenario, which even within mandatory carry itself, me, fix bayonets, pop a carry, hell, my brother, has been a kind of ugly discussion at times. We can't really think of an elegant way to write it that would be simple for everybody to understand. So we haven't touched that one yet. There's so many other exemptions. You can find one. And if you really can't find one that applies to you, if you really cannot pretend to be a conscientious objector, get an elective exemption. This first one is meant as a warning. Hey, you screwed up. You made a mistake. Don't do it again. The second one really is intended to compel. Upon fourth and subsequent violation, incarceration not more than 23 months and 28 days and $1,000 fine. This one is actually intended to be the big fuck you. You want to be absolutely arrogantly contemptuous of the law, that's fine. You can sit in jail for a couple of years. By the way, it's written 23 months and 28 days, very specific number there, and $1,000 fine. You can't felony out. It had occurred to me that there would be people out there who would actually just brazenly ignore the law to get a felony conviction, and that's an exemption. No. You can't just felony out. Nice try, though. This includes failure to carry as required, carrying as prohibited, and use of terminology contrary to this act by anyone in professional capacity. Why do you think I brought up the SKS again? Yeah. That guy would have actually been guilty of 3 violations. Describing an SKS as an assault rifle when it can't be would have been $1,500 in fine. Now, would a judge see it that way? Probably not. It's not actually written that way. On the other hand, there might be another judge that says, yeah, no, you were lying, you knew it, screw you, you get all 3. There's a few others. Police officers are actually the worst. At first, it was because cops themselves, well, the public, didn't understand the difference. So they were saying something so that you would understand this is serious. Later on, it started to be more and more of, well, the law says, and after that, it quickly became apparent, no, this was about scaring the public into more funding for police. And no. So even cops have no exemption here. I don't see anything in here that says you have an exemption because your professional capacity is something else. It's because it's not there. This includes failure to carry failure to carry at the discretion of a court may be waived upon payment of a $10 fine not more than 3 times. Text will be in the description as well. I'll read this one more time, straight through. Any person who willfully ignores any part of this act may, upon first violation, be fined not more than $100. Upon second and subsequent violations, $500. Upon fourth and subsequent violations, incarcerated not more than 23 months and 28 days and $1,000 fine. This includes failure to carry as required, carrying as prohibited, and use of terminology contrary to this act by anyone in a professional capacity. Failure to carry at the discretion of a court may be waived upon payment of a $10 fine not more than 3 times. That's an even bigger second one, but I'm going to go over a few details. First of all, carrying as prohibited. If you are a mandatory exemption, you're a mandatory exemption. I'm sorry, that's it. All right? Now, if you are a specific category of mandatory exemption, for example, your mandatory exemption is no pepper spray because you're a little bit loose with your pepper spray. You've had a couple of incidents and the judge said, this is like the 5th time you've sprayed somebody and I can't put you in prison, but it's also the 5th time you've sprayed somebody not involved in the problem. I'm taking your pepper spray away. Okay, it is what it is. You get caught with pepper spray, you're kind of in trouble now. It's a mandatory exemption. I am picking on myself here. There's a particular, well, 2 actually formerly married individuals from Hollywood who had a little bit of a problem with knives. They liked to play with knives in ways that were just not appropriate. Could I imagine a judge, after an incident between the 2 of them, and they had incidents, taking their knives away? Yeah, actually, I could. I could see that potentially happening. Now, they're long, long since not even talking to each other anymore. Ethically not talking to each other. But while they were still together, that could have come up. I talk far too casually about brass knuckles. Could I imagine a judge maybe calling me in and saying, Mr. Carey, it has come to our attention that you're far too fond of brass knuckles, and I'm taking them away from you. Could happen. I would also go into that contested uh, uh, exemption hearing saying, no, Your Honor, because both of the times that I've used them, it was justifiable. Or bring forward a victim to say otherwise. And that is also what it is. Obviously, using it terms contrary to the act in a professional capacity. Um, that's meant to scare the public. It's meant to terrorize the public. That was the real reason this guy kept saying SKS assault rifle. He wanted to scare people into supporting gun control. Oh, fuck you. You don't get to lie to the public, especially to pass your pet project that has already been proven to be dangerous. All right, failure to carry may be waived. Only failure to carry may be waived because maybe you just did make a mistake. Maybe you just, you were running out the door to get some cookies and milk at the Chevron across the street. And you ran into your buddy, and the two of you need to go deal with that problem. Maybe you just ran out the door in a hurry. You were late for work this morning. Maybe a million things. You made a mistake, and you've owned it. Now, yes, Your Honor, I was in a hurry. I forgot to take it with me. Courts can waive it, but not more than 3 times. You get 3 strikes. And the judge has the discretion to say, no, that's not a strike. Right? Or you don't get the way out because I know you from other circumstances. I know you're lying to me. You were just doing this to get in trouble or to protest or whatever. And that's also within the judge's prerogative. Now, there is a $10 fine, and I want to make it very clear that this is a fine. It's not a court fee. It's not a compensatory cost. You might still have to pay $250 because that's what the cost of court to actually deal with what you did. That's unfortunately got to be on you. It's a fine. And it's also a absolute declaration that yes, you did this once. Maybe you did it twice. You did it a 3rd time. This is your last chance. You've been warned 3 times now. It's also a failure to carry only. You don't get it for saying SKS assault rifle. You don't get it for carrying a gun when you are an absolutely prohibited person and everybody understands why. Right? No. You don't get that advantage. It's only failure to carry as required. The sentencing requirements is set at not more than 23 months and 28 days. The absolute most possible without it being a felony. Yeah. Now, the judge can elect to have a jury trial if they so choose. It's still considered a misdemeanor. Now, I'm actually thinking of a specific person on Earth. One of the people that was invited to the original Sarge because she's a gun control supporter, and I thought was an adult. And I wanted to actually give gun control supporters a chance to give their side, their ideas on how to make this work. And unfortunately, they all chose to threaten to call the Secret Service and spam it with some puppies in sombreros photos and a couple other ridiculous and stupid shit. I eventually had to just kick them all out. And that is unfortunate. I'm going to say something here. Rob Pincus reached out to the President Brady campaign, or vice versa. I don't give a fuck which. They talked together, and I'm actually kind of jealous. He got, Rob Pincus that is, got a chance to hear the other side and to actually get some legitimate input from them. I'm never going to get that chance because they will not talk to me. Right? One member of that community decided to be a silly little girl, and now I will never get to hear. What do you think, or what would you want to make this work? And it is as simple as that. Now, if you're watching this and you're one of those in the gun control community who is able to get past that, please, for God's sakes, leave a comment, email me. It's in the description part of the channel. I'm not that hard to find. All right. I would love to hear you out. I'll even have you on a live stream and we can have it out that way. I can do the live stream as unlisted or private mode. I'll give you copies, whatever you want. I really do want to hear. What would it take to make you support this? Unfortunately, I'm not seeing a lot to make me believe that that's ever going to happen. It is what it is. Very unfortunate. All right, I've been going now for about an hour and 47 minutes. This is about the time I start wrapping up normally. And without anybody to heckle me, I'm going to start wrapping it up here. In case I didn't say it earlier, what went wrong with the live stream? All right, so as it's clearly not working, there's no audio. I assumed that this was YouTube being YouTube again, and I started troubleshooting it. At first, I tried a unlisted mode live stream off of StreamYards. Still no audio. Not a surprise. This is YouTube. Then I tried a direct YouTube live stream. Still no audio. Yeah, okay. This is YouTube being YouTube, right? Well, then I tried a recording, which is what this is. Still no sound, no audio. Oh. Okay. So this is obviously my computer. I tried playing with the settings. Nothing was working. It's just nothing was working. And then just for a second, I had a flash of Geordie LaForge and the mem related to that. Have you tried rebooting the OES conduit or whatever it was you would say? Even in the 24th century, have you tried turning it off and turning it on? No. No, it can't be that, right? Tried turning my computer off, turning it back on. And all of a sudden, the audio is working. I have no idea why this is. I really don't. I do know that it is working now. Now, I closed it up last night without shutting it down. I know that. I closed all the tabs and all of the everything else, and then I just closed it up because I was falling asleep as I was doing that. Okay, all right, that's on me. I still don't understand how this happened, and I'm extremely butthurt. I was actually, because I couldn't figure out which setting it was that was causing the problem, I was about ready to take it into town and take it to a professional and have it checked. Matter of fact, I was looking his number up when in that vision hit me because thinking about him brought the mem brought the meme up in my head. It can't be that simple. But that's actually what happened. Just shut it down and turn it back on again and see what happens. So next week I know to have my coffee, tea, and Gatorade sitting on the table waiting for me about 30 minutes before I start. Go take a leak, get one last cigarette, and oh yeah, turn my computer on. What? It is what it is. All right. It is 1 minute, 51 minutes. I can't go any longer. So, well, I could, but just with babbling. So, keep calm, mandatory carry on, and I am trying to get to 1,000 subscribers before the end of summer. The plan was hopefully to get there before my birthday. Well, my birthday came and went, and that didn't happen. So please, for God's sakes, share the videos, share the channel. Um, it's not for monetization. It's actually so I can start posting images in the community tab because I got a long pile of them to put out there. All right, keep calm and manage to carry on.